You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
7 minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Clement Manyathela Show. It's great to have you with us here on 702. I hope you're good this morning. We were broadcasting from Durban yesterday. Guess where we're broadcasting from today? Well, we're in Pretoria, in Tshwane, at the CSIR, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. We are here at the International Conference Center because it's the third G20 Research and Innovation Working Group and Research and Innovation Ministerial Meeting. So this is a meeting that brings together G20 member states, guest countries, you've got multilateral organizations here, and global science partners to advance inclusive science, technology, and innovation for sustainable development. So this is why we're here at the CSIR. But we start the 702 open line with your calls on 011-883-0702. You can send us your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. Can we connect the dots again today? Because this is what we've been doing, isn't it? Every time we've seen this testimony, we started with Mkwanazi, who was at the Madlanga Commission last week. What we do is we come and we try to connect the dots from what we've been able to pick up from what they have shared with us. And I want us to do the same thing today. And I want us to help each other, right? Following Fani Masemola's testimony yesterday at the Madlanga Commission, what dots have you been able to connect from what he shared with the Commission? What piqued your interest? Give us a call or send us a WhatsApp voice note, please. But between 10 and 11 o'clock, we have a conversation with ICASA Chairperson Mutibi Ramusi. There's a lot to talk about. As you know, the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa is the country's official regulator of communications, broadcasting and postal services. It develops regulations for these sectors. It issues licenses to telecommunications and broadcasting service providers. They monitor license compliance with rules and regulations. They plan and manage the radio frequency spectrum, and they protect consumers like you and I against unfair business practices and poor quality services. And I saw that they recently marked 25 years of their existence. So as the regulator reflects on its legacy and future role, there are debates around its policies that continue to cause a stir. Remember what the communications minister, Solly Malatsi, argued a couple of months ago, that ICASA's current requirements for 30% triple BEE ownership is outdated, and he was warning that it risks discouraging investment and shifting innovation or even stifling it in the telecommunications industry. So I want to have a chat about that. I want to chat about, yes, the advancements in ICT, but we still have South Africans that are still struggling with broadband speed and quality compared to leading global markets. I think we probably have a near universal 3G and 4G coverage, and yet the issue of affordability and accessibility remains a huge challenge. So what role does ICASA play in bridging the affordability gap for consumers? So that and many more issues between 10 and 11 o'clock as we host the ICASA chairperson Mutibi Ramusi. At 11 o'clock, we're going to do our World of Work feature, and today we're looking at the fastest growing careers in 2025, right? We'll be discussing what's driving their rise, right? What skills are most in demand right now, and how can you or your children position themselves to thrive in this dynamic future of work? You know, how should young professionals, for instance, and even mid-career workers adapt or reskill to stay competitive in this environment? And then we're going to wrap up the show at 11:30 with our health and wellness feature. Today we're talking about the effects of intermittent fasting, good and bad, right? Intermittent fasting has become a hot topic, beyond just weight management. Research has uncovered just surprising benefits for energy, for focus, and even longevity. I mean, some have said that it helps with weight and energy. Others say it clears their mind. And for a few, it even saves money on the grocery bill. But other people feel like it hasn't really worked for them. So we're going to look at the effects of intermittent fasting, good and bad, on our health and wellness feature at 11:30. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM.
Okay, let's connect the dots. What did Fani Masemola say yesterday that piqued your interest? And I want to start off with something that you could argue has divided public opinion, right? A lot of us have different views on this one. Fani Masemola has suggested to the Madlanga Commission that he was pressured, basically, into conceding to the disbandment of the political killings task team. He has indicated that he disagreed with the instruction of the Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu, to disband the political killings task team because, for instance, and I can't wait to hear the Minister respond to this question of what did he base his decision on? Because isn't it that when you're going to decide that a task team no longer serves its interest, what you have to do is, at least at the very least, compile a report on its functioning. What was it able to do? What was it not able to do? What did it succeed in? What were its failures? You need a comprehensive report before you can make a decision to disband a task team. So, what was at the foundation of what the minister decided around the political killings task team? So, anyway, Fani Masemola told the commission yesterday that he disagreed with the police minister, Senzo Mchunu, but he ended up conceding to the disbandment. He gave in to the minister's order and instruction. He said, at the end of the day, he decided that, okay, we'll do it, but let's rather do it in a phased approach, right? And not disband it immediately. So, if we're being blunt about it, the National Police Commissioner obeyed an unlawful instruction. There's no other way to say it. He has indicated that he tried his best. He tried to say to the minister, I don't agree with this decision. He says he even went to the president. And by the way, there's no way you can tell me that the president is not going to be asked to come and appear before the Madlanga Commission when he has already been mentioned. He has now been implicated in having agreed to the decision of the political killings task team. So this is what I mean by that. The police minister was in parliament. Remember, Senzo Mchunu was in parliament, I think in March this year. And he confirmed in parliament that he and the president agreed that this is the end of the political killings task team. I must find that clip and play it for you. That's what Senzo Mchunu said in parliament. And yesterday, Fani Masemola confirms that he himself told the president that the Minister of Police wants to disband the political killings task team, and I don't think that's a great idea. And the president apparently promised that, okay, I'll speak to the minister about it. The president never went back to Fani Masemola. So the president has to appear. He has to tell us, did Senzo Mchunu tell him about his decision to disband the political killings task team? What did he do about it? And if Senzo Mchunu lied in parliament when he said the president agreed that the political killings task team should be disbanded, what must then happen to Senzo Mchunu? Because then he would have lied to parliament, isn't it? He would have lied to parliament. So I'm really looking forward to the president appearing at the commission so that we figure out here if he was complicit in a decision to disband a task team that, by all accounts, according to assessments that have been made, this is a task team that was actually succeeding in its work. Now, I want you to listen to this clip of Fani Masemola yesterday being asked very, very poignant questions by the chairperson of this inquiry, Justice Madlanga.
Would a National Commissioner of Police be entitled to disobey an instruction by the minister if that instruction strayed onto operational matters? Would the National Commissioner be legally entitled to say to the minister, Minister, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to act in accordance with your instruction?
Yeah, I take it that, yes, the National Commissioner can say that.
Now let me be direct and ask you about yourself. If you were to find yourself in such a situation, would you disobey the minister? If the minister were to give you an instruction that strays onto operational or managerial matters, would you, General Masemula, say to the minister, I am not going to obey that?
Yeah, it depends, Commissioner, but yes, I will. It's a matter that is career limited, but
it depends on what?
It depends on how he does it.
It's simple. It's
Yes.
simple. You have said operational and managerial matters are within your remit and not the minister's.
Yes.
So I am saying categorically to you that in what I posit to you, the instruction would be falling outside of the minister's remit and be straying onto operational and managerial matters. It's that clear.
Yeah, no.
Would you, General Masemula, tell the minister, I am not going to obey that?
Yeah, no, I will tell him that I won't do it. But as I said, it depends.
So
he must explain why he's doing certain things.
You hear that? So basically, what the National Police Commissioner confirms there is that he did end up implementing an unlawful instruction. And that raises some serious questions, my friends. I think it does. If you're a National Police Commissioner, you're again being given an unlawful instruction, what becomes your approach and response? Do you implement it because you think, oh no, this is career limiting if I go against the president on this one? And look, I do think that some of us are being too simplistic by arguing that, yeah, you should have just said no and resigned. That's not really how life works. How many of you have actually ended up implementing things because your bosses were putting pressure on you? So it's very easy for us to sit outside and say, yeah, but why didn't he just resign? But I think it's also important for us to ask questions. Why? Why, when General Mkhwanazi, the KZN Police Commissioner, remember when he told the commission that Nathi Mhleko tried to put pressure on him, on Richard Mdlulu and the cases that he was, the charges that he was facing. And he told the minister that, Minister, if I was appointed as the acting national commissioner to be going and implementing unlawful instructions, I'm not going to do that. And the minister said, well, it's the president who appointed you, not me. And Mkhwanazi told the commission that I told the minister at the time that I'm going to tell the president that, well, I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to do what is not right and what is not lawful. So Mkhwanazi could do it. Why can't the National Police Commissioner do it? Huh? Is that too much to ask for? Especially something so fundamental. There is a political killings task team that you know as the National Police Commissioner is doing good work. They are arresting people. There are so many cases that they followed. You know as the National Police Commissioner that if you disband this political killings task team, there is going to be a disadvantage on the victims of these crimes. And yet you still are willing to obey that instruction? Where do you stand on this one? Let me know your thoughts. I do have a bit of sympathy for Fani Masemula because I do think that he tried. I think he tried to go to the minister. He tried to go to the president. But then he's at a point now where he's like, I ended up just deciding that, you know what, it's fine. Let's just do it in a phased approach. So I've got a bit of sympathy for him, but I'm still critical of him. I still feel like he should have done what General Mkhwanazi has done. Put your foot down and say, I am not going to compromise the criminal justice system like that. I am not going to compromise even the victims of the criminal activities that have been done by people that were being followed by the political Killings Task Team. What do you think? 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. It's 22 after 9.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
25 minutes after 9 o'clock. Kustas, you're in Midrand. Good morning.
Yeah, morning. Yes, Clement, let me agree with you. I also sympathize with Masemula in his position. And I think that, let me just elaborate on that one, Clement. We seem to have a short memory in terms of listening to the state capture testimony by let's call them technocrats or the DGs or the guys who are running state-owned enterprises. The amount of pressure that ANC is able to exert on them to do illegal things. It is staggering when I claim it. And I think Umasemula, they and Mkwanas have got so much avenues to explore. And when they hit a dead break wall, what do you think they should do? Mkwanas is courageous because he understood that he was educated. True. Actually, it limited his career when I claim. He had to sit at home, I think for a year, whatever, because of his stance. Umasemula, on the other hand, he looks at his children and his wife and his brother's children and what, and says, guys, I cannot lose this job. So we need to be sympathetic to at the same time when I come in. Is this not evidence enough of what Mkwanas was saying? Because as soon as Mkwanas touched on the nexus between media and crime intelligence, we saw how the media responded. We saw how the analysts responded. We now know that actually the Hawks boss position was going to go to Spear. Had Mkwanas not gone there, Spear is actually corrupted as a police officer. Is that not enough? Does not this show that Spear is beyond repair? Yeah, but what kind of a country were we supposed to be in? So the courage of Mkwanas helped to stop Spear from actually becoming in charge of the Hawks. In other words, drug-dealing criminals run amok in this country. So I'm suggesting that is evidence enough. I hope the people are saying, the thing the Mkwanas with a pinch of salt would come back on air and say, yes, guys, I was wrong. I believe Mkwanas now. And we have a tendency in this country to absolutely mistreat whistleblowers. And Mkwanas is one of those. And even now, we are not even sympathetic to him. We're not even showing support. Instead, we are saying, you with a pinch of salt. But the man has been corroborated. Others are still going to come forward. So, in summary, I'm saying that let's be sympathetic to Masemula. ANC is the problem. And unfortunately,
okay,
the problem.
Got it.
That's why he must go. Thank you.
All right. Kustas in Midrand, I'll respond to some of what you've had to say after the headlines. It's 28 minutes now after 9 o'clock.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
So I'm coming to more of your calls in a moment. Mituli, Koketso, I see you. Remember, I've been telling you that we are coming to you live from the CSIR this morning, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. We're here at the International Convention Center because it's the third G20 Research and Innovation Working Group and Research and Innovation Ministerial meeting. So you've got G20 member states here, guest countries, multilateral organizations, global science partners, and all of them are having conversations here about how to advance inclusive science, technology, and innovation for sustainable development. And joining me now is Imran Patel, who's the Deputy Director General for Research, Development and Support at the Department of Science and Technology and Innovation. Mr. Patel, thank you so much for your time. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and good morning to your listeners.
Let's talk about the purpose for this gathering. I think you've had, 2 gatherings before this one. What are some of the key issues that are going to be discussed here?
All right, so just context, this is the third meeting, but it's also combined with what we call the ministerial. So the previous 2 meetings and the last 2 days, it was officials from different countries who met to decide what are the science and technology policy priorities that are common to the G20 country. The ministers then meet this morning to look at what the officials have prepared and to finally agree whether they support the declaration or not. So some of the issues that we've pushed are aligned to our development requirements. For example, South Africa has adhered to something called open science and open innovation. We've learned from COVID that when it's scientists that cooperate in an effective way, that science advances. So we've bought into that. So one of the issues in the declaration is around open innovation.
Yeah.
Biodiversity is a big priority for South Africa. You know, we are a mega biodiverse country. There's lots of opportunities in exploiting that biodiversity for economic development, and that's another area that we put on the agenda to advance our work. And then we have access to science and technology by marginalized communities, women, etc. So these are the kind of topics that we've identified, and we've built on previous hosts of the G20 Research and Innovation Working Group who put forward some of these matters which we agreed on, and we've taken it forward.
Yeah, who's part of this gathering?
All right, so it's the G20 member countries, all 20 of them, except the US hasn't physically attended. And then we have guest countries that we've invited to all of the G20 events. That includes our African partners, the AU. And then very importantly, we've used what we call knowledge partners, significant players like the Organization for Economic Cooperation.
Right, looks like we've lost the line to Clement. So I think it's 9:32. Let's take some eyewitness news with Sufiso.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
Right, 23 minutes to 10 o'clock. Ray White here. We're just trying to re-establish that line to Pretoria. The Clement Manyathela Show, of course, live from the G20 Research and Innovation Working Group. And I have really enjoyed the discussion this morning. I'm a little bit outraged as well as a South African. And I can't help but think the police, those men and women in blue, what they think about everything. This is their leadership. Their job is to fight crime. Yet they turn around and you have a police minister who wants to do away, or does do away, with this task team, the political killings task team. You have a deputy police commissioner who rides roughshod over his boss, the national police commissioner. Let's take some of your calls. Patrick from Dawn Park. Hi, Patrick.
Yes, how are you, Ray?
Good, good. What are your thoughts on this?
I just want to make a few points. One, what Mkonazi is saying and what is being said in the commission was written. There's a number of our top-class investigative journalists that wrote about it. If you just take a few of those books and you read a few paragraphs, you can see what Mkonazi is saying. So I don't think people must pretend that this is a new thing. It's been there for a very, 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 very long time. And I think that worries me. Every time you put on your TV at night, I've now realized that we've got a lot of so-called security experts. It reminded me to the days of load shedding. Every now and then you see a new face and they would be referred to as experts in electricity. I'm challenging the media on this. Can we at least have a little bit of a CV? So if you're going to profile somebody, right, to give comments, you can't just call a guy expert if we as the listeners or the viewers don't understand why the person has got a title expert. The other day, one of the people that's close to Ket Matala also came on one of the TV shows. He's also a so-called security expert, but it's claimed that he's also involved in the underworld. And the last point I want to make is, we must pray. This is our last chance, I believe, to really, because we can walk and chew gum, right? We need to listen and take these things very, very seriously, as opposed to have opinions now. Every day there's an opinion about this one, what this one said and whatever. So there's so many, other than the experts on media, there's now experts. We are all experts, and we know that South Africa. Let's accept that. But let's wait until the commission is finished, because every day new evidence is going to come out. And we must take this thing seriously. The worrying thing is, this thing comes from the top. If it's true that this was discussed by the president, right? And nothing was done. Then we must all get worried and rather,
yeah, Patrick, that's the point.
Instead of being critical, because I don't believe that Mkonazi would have come up with the stories, knowing that he was fired before. At least he sat at home for one day because he didn't want to do what Zuma and them wanted to do.
I get you. I mean, Patrick, I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. And look, that is one of the things in news. You're right. We've got too many media experts and we do need to look at credentials. But from a South African point of view, being a South African and hearing what I'm hearing, and this is what I love about what Clement's doing this morning. He's joining the dots. He's going and saying, but there's this, but there's that. And normally with a story, when people start talking and one person says it, then there's two, there's three, there's four. Then we start to think, okay, hold on a second now. There's something here. There's something happening. And if this did indeed happen, and Patrick, you're quite right, the president needs to explain if he did give the green light for this task team to go. Right, so Clement Manyathela, we're back with you. You've got some calls to answer.
Yes, Razor, thank you so much for coming through there. So we're going to just continue with the calls on 011-883-0702. Koketso, let me start with you in the East Rand. Good morning.
Yes, morning, Clement. Yeah, Clement, my comment is I agree 100% with the previous caller, Patrick, but I also want to say that I understand where General Fani Masemola came from, right? Because this is not happening for the first time where we have undue influence put on someone, who's either in a state-owned enterprise or within government. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, we had a similar situation with Jahana, the guy who was heading up SAA, where he also clashed with the minister at the time. And because he had, he wanted to do different things with SAA, but yet the minister at the time didn't want that, he ended up having to resign. And he stated it clearly when he resigned to say, I am leaving under duress because I'm working with a political principal who wants me to do wrong things, and I can't in good conscience do this. So what for me, Clement, what breaks my heart more about this Madlanga commission is the fact that it's more like, very good, hardworking technocrats and professionals have had to quit their jobs under duress because of political principals who know nothing about, the subject matter they want to sort of change, right? And then they come in and they exert this influence because perhaps maybe they're taking money from these syndicates or they're taking money from someone in the underworld. And people who are good technocrats, who are, patriotic South Africans, have had to step down from their jobs because they will not compromise themselves as people and their reputations. And they will not even compromise the country. They will not sell out the country. So they've had to go and resign because of some political principles. So for me, I hope the Madlanga Commission can help us connect those dots because a lot of people are sitting at home. They've had to resign, similar to what happened to Mkwanazi, where he had to go sit at home for a year. People are being frustrated by various corrupt officials and politicians and even also business people who hold sway. Because one thing about the Madlanga Commission is also bringing that aspect of the fact that it's not just only coming from the executive or the judiciary or the parliamentarians. It's also coming from the business sector as well, this undue influence.
Yeah, I mean, Fani Masemola said, people were referring to Ket Matlala as his deputy because he knew so much about the operations of the SAPS. But Koketso, can you and I agree on this one thing, right? I do, as I said when I opened up this conversation, is one, I do have sympathy for Fani Masemola because I acknowledge and appreciate the pressure that technocrats and public officials have been put under by these filthy, corrupt politicians. It's happened a lot even during the state capture project. So on the one hand, I am. But please, Koketso, let's not make a mistake of also trying to justify public officials that are going to end up allowing themselves to be used to implement unlawful instructions. I think we need a new generation of public officials who are going to get into the system knowing what the pressures are in the system, especially in such high positions, and public officials that are going to take the stand. For instance, Koketso, if Masemola knew that there is a criminal syndicate, there are some business people out there that are clearly close to politicians that are being protected. So when you know that so much is at stake, I'm sorry, I expect a lot from you. I expect that you are going to put this country first and push back and say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be part of this thing. I would rather lose my job because there is so much at stake, as opposed to sell the soul of this country to the very same criminal elements that are going to thrive because you are going to implement an unlawful instruction. So that's why I agree. I think two things can exist at the same time. I have sympathy for him because, my goodness, we've seen so many good men and women who work in the public sector being put under unfair pressure. And that's why I've said it's very easy for us to just say these things. But you listening to me right now, how many decisions have you implemented that came from your boss that you didn't agree with? Some of which were unlawful. Have you not been in a position where you were told this is what's going to happen whether you like it or not? And you had to think about your family? You had to think about your future? So it's very easy for us to think, be firm and resign. It's not as easy as that. But at the same time, I think we need a new generation of public officials, and I think many of them exist today. That's why you've got someone like Mkonazi who decided, I would rather lose it all. I'm not here to implement unlawful things. I would rather lose my job. Especially when stakes are so high, where our criminal justice system seems to be compromised, when business people seem to be running things and controlling top cops. I'm sorry, I would rather lose my job than sell the soul of this country to those criminals. And I expected a lot from Fanima Samula, but I do have some sympathy for him as well. TT, you're in Pretoria. What are your thoughts? Hi. Sure. Go ahead, brother.
Look, I'm not trying to suck up to you or anything, but I was telling someone last week that Clement Manyathela is actually my favorite broadcaster, because when it comes to having conversations, he opens it up. Well, I understand. As opposed to how the print media, I believe, was reporting, or what I've seen, especially this past week, where they said revelations by Mkonazi continue, but where's the evidence? So, you're pointing a narrative that now we must question Mkonazi more than question what he's actually said and saying, but this is happening underneath our watch, or supposedly happening under our watch. What are we going to do about it? Let's have a conversation about it. So I don't think those two printed media houses were helping in that sense. I think they were actually not helping, and therefore that's why it gave a lot of people the idea that now you guys are one of them. Which I think is unfair, but you don't report like that. You open it up. You have a role to play to open it up, to open up the conversation, because it's very serious revelations that we made there. You can't say, but where's the evidence? You can't point, because what you say, you influence how people have a conversation, if you know what I mean. So hence your role is very important, and I think the fact that you're opening it up says a lot about you, that you're opening it up. You want us to have a conversation around it all, as opposed to saying, because you can easily say, Clement, opening the show and say, Mkonazi says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but where's the evidence? The next 10 callers are going to call you, and now we're going to speak about the evidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so Titi, I hear what you say, but I think it's very important for you to know that I could start my show and say that. And that's okay. And you, as TT, must know that on this, especially on my show, because I speak for my show, I don't speak for the media. You can call me, TT, and say, but Clement, why are you asking where's the evidence? Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I can engage you on that. What I've tried to do, especially with this platform, is let's open up conversations. Like, we don't need to agree on things. I could very well, I've disagreed with many of you guys when I didn't agree with how General Mkonazi responded to that journalist who asked for comment. Some of you felt, no, he was right, and I thought he wasn't. That's fine. Here's where I think our society has really gone to the dogs on this one. There's this thing of group thought. People who expect you to think the same like everybody else. I don't think everybody must think the same. I don't. And now we've reached a point where, because there are certain people who support Shadrach Sibiya, there are certain people who support General Mkonazi, the minute you criticize Shadrach Sibiya, then you are seen to be anti-Shadrach. The minute you criticize General Mkonazi, you are seen to be anti-Mkonazi. That's not a debate. That is not a debate. That's lazy thinking. Why are we not engaging each other based on the evidence that we have? I mean, you should see the things that I get, even on Twitter. Ridiculous things. People are now asking me, hey, can you confirm if you know if you know Brown Bukhosi? Because they're thinking that, oh, we've caught him. Ridiculous things. I've never even met that guy. I don't know that man. They're saying because I once tweeted that his name on my phone is saved under Brown Bukhosi CR17, because at the time when the president was campaigning, he was one of the guys who were working for the CR17 campaign. I don't know him. And now you've got people saying, did he pay for your accommodation? How? Did he pay for hospitality of other journalists? Ridiculous things. So people end up going to find, they're using debt now. They're using lies and false information to try and target you because you're an objective journalist that wants to look at things objectively. That doesn't work for me, and that's why I just block. I don't have time to respond to rubbish like that. I block. So, and the point I'm making to you, TT, is we can have different opinions about things. You can call in and say, there is no evidence. And I can challenge you and say, no, there is. I can start the show and say, there is no evidence. You can challenge me and say, yes, there is. That's it. We need a plurality of voices. You and I can have different opinions and challenge each other. And I hope that's the platform all of you agree we have created on this show. It's 8 minutes now before 10 o'clock.
Global minds, bold innovation, shared progress. The Clement Manyathela Show on 702. Live from the G20 Research and Innovation Working Group.
5 minutes before 10 o'clock. There are so many people here, G20 member states, multilateral organizations, global science partners, and all of them are having conversations around advancing inclusive science and technology for sustainable development. I want to bring in now Annelien Morgan here at our makeshift studios, the acting CEO of the National Advisory Council on Innovation. Annelien, thank you so much for joining us. Hi.
Thank you, Clement. Good morning to your listeners.
So you guys advise the Minister of Science and Technology on issues related to innovation in science and technology. What is our approach as South Africa to science and technology going into the G20?
So, good morning once again to the listeners, and thank you for having us on your show. So I'd like to say that it's been a great privilege for South Africa. On the 21st of September, we hosted all the G20 chief science advisors from across the G20 member countries and guest countries. And these are advisors who are located within the president's offices in the various countries or prime minister's offices. And then in South Africa, we give that type of advice through the agency where I'm based, the National Advisory Council of Innovation, which is an entity of the Department of Science and Technology, where we give evidence-based science and technology advice to the minister. So the outcome of our meeting on the 21st of September was a historic day for South Africa's G20 presidency, because for the first time, we've agreed on an outcome statement as the chief science advisors. The first chief science advisors took place under the presidency of India in 2023, and then the 2024 Brazil, which was hosted with UNESCO, and then this was the third meeting where we adopted what we call the outcome statement of the chief science advisors.
What are some of the conversations you hope will be taking place as we look ahead to the national summit, of course, around science and technology?
So what we're saying is basically to say, how do we use science to inform evidence-based policy making? So one of the key issues we've articulated in our outcome statement is that how do we leverage the different diversity from the G20 countries to build capacity amongst the countries. But as you know, the South Africa's presidency of the G20 is not only for South Africa, we've also made it an Africa-centric G20. So to say, how do we then put Africa to also benefit from the vast diversity and the resources that G20 member countries can offer. So we hope that as we lead up to the summit, that science and technology will be a key thread in the summit declaration, because as you know that no country or economy can develop without the integration of science, technology and innovation.
And then climate and AI, how does that affect those conversations?
Well, as you know, there are various working streams. Under another task force, there's the Digital Task Force on AI. We deal mainly with the STI issues such as climate, biodiversity, equity, but also scientific freedom. The other issues we've discussed, resources. As you know, there's not enough resources to support research and development. In South Africa, expenditure on R&D for GDP has been sitting at 0.61%. But if you look at in the NDP, our National Development Plan, we are saying that by 2030, the country must invest about 1.5% of GDP for science and technology. So we kind of at a behind in terms of investment of resources. So we continuously use these platforms to advocate for more resources to be invested for research, development and innovation.
Wonderful. Annelien Morgan, thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you, Clement, and thank you to the listeners of 702. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The acting CEO of the National Advisory Council on Innovation. 2 minutes before 10.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Seven minutes after 10 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702, and thank you for your contribution on the 702 open line. I'm so sorry today we took a bit of your time, which is why I want to at least give you, let's say, 8 minutes before we start our conversation with the chairperson of ICASA. I want to give you about 8 minutes to take some calls I couldn't take and some more WhatsApp voice notes as well, just as we wrap up the 702 open line. So let's start with Tabiso, who's calling us from Polokwane. Tabiso, go ahead, brother. How are you? Good morning.
I'm good, Clement. I hope you are. You see,
Sure.
is it, Clement? Maybe let's look at the letter that was written when everyone was going to celebrate the New Year on the 35th. It gives two things. It says you disband now, but also send a report by the 20th of January.
Yeah.
So in my own view, then another time the police commissioner was on leave. Well, you know very well that had the police minister, the commissioner, when he came back, decided, no, let me seek the audience between the president, the minister, and try to understand, but also gives options insofar as how do we deal with these issues so far as disbanding is concerned. I'm telling you, Clement, if you would have said no, I'm not agreeing with the disbandment, maybe responded by letter, you would have been put on suspension. You would have been put
Absolutely,
on suspension.
you're right.
It was quite
you're
very
right,
clear.
Tabiso.
It
But
was quite very clear.
what's worse? What's worse? So you get on suspension. There are opportunities
Remember
you
what
can
was
fight that suspension, including bringing in this to the media. Or the opposite of that is that you continue with implementing an unlawful instruction, and then Boket Matlala then continue to roam the streets and they are not arrested. So what is it going to be?
Remember what normally happens when you suspend the police commissioner. You don't just suspend and you fire that person. There's a process that you need to probably follow. You remember the Ria Piera issue and many others that you ought to be able to follow the process. But you also remember, Clement, at some point, you always had a story that the police commissioner has been investigated, there's a mounting arrest. Well, you were dealing with a very complicated kind of a syndicate that was geared to say they wanted the blood of each and every individual who seemed to be in the forefront, who would disturb their control in the security. I agree with what they would have done by making sure that although they would have took time, that the 6th of July, then everything came into being, wherein this matter was addressed. But at least for now, we have that particular trust to say we see the truth each and every day, and one believes that we'll get to the bottom of the truth insofar as stopping the syndicate that's controlling.
But Tabiso, quick one though. The quick question I'm asking is, if you were in Masemola's position, right? There are two options before you. One, you're under pressure to disband a political killings task team that's doing incredible work to expose a criminal syndicate. When you agree to that unlawful instruction, Ket Matlala, Katie Molefe, you name them, all these people that have been arrested thanks to the help of the political killing stars team are going to continue roaming the streets, and as alleged by the police, they're going to continue running things and being friends with top cops, and they're going to continue being protected. Or you say, I stand my ground and I'm not going to implement an unlawful decision. Yes, I'm going to lose my job, but I'm going to try other ways to try and fight this. What option do you take?
Look, what gives me comfort, Clement, is that the commissioner did not act abruptly. He actually delayed the process and tried to, yes, he did not just, I mean, if this was another person who was scared, he would have ordinarily on the second or the third, disbanded it.
Implemented
and even
it,
went to the media and
true.
addressed it and said, no, but he actually wanted to find a way, and including among others going to the president to say, but president, you are the one who employs me, not the minister. How do you, did this man talk to you about this particular issue? And what are the consequences thereof that we are going to be dealing with? Because here,
but still, Tabiso, what's the option still? So even after you've gone to the president, you're right, and I agree with you. You make a fair point. I made the same point earlier that, like, let's give him credit. This man tried. He tried to tell the minister, no, you're wrong. He went to the president, who must then appear also at the Madlanga and tell us why did he agree, because that's what the minister says he did. The minister said the president agreed. He went to the president. The president said, I'll come back to you. I'm going to talk to this guy. The president didn't come back to him. So let's give him credit. And then he said, let's do it in a phased approach. Let's give him credit for that. But I still ask you, Tabiso, what's the best option?
The problem is that the best option would have been that he would have just, decided to leave and said, but I can't take unlawful instruction. But you see, what is the problem? The problem is that we are not going to be where we are now in terms of unearthing the truth. We'll just know that the commissioner decided not to take the unlawful decision and decided to resign because of whatever, and that issue dies. And that is.
I don't think so. Yeah. Okay. I don't think so, Tabiso. I didn't think so. I'm being rushed for time here because I want to play this clip for you quickly. But Tabiso, I thank you so much. I got your point, Tabiso, in Polokwane. I do think that you can still fight things in the media, right? You can. And there are some of us that are going to hop on things the same way that some of us have been hopping on Tiger. Remember Tiger? The guy that the police helped escape? He's sitting somewhere, I'm sure, on a holiday beach resort, having cocktails. We keep on pushing it. Every time I speak to Atlanta, I make sure that I'm going to ask that question. Why? Because we can't let that go. Because these cops are so filthy, some of them. They've let a kingpin go and escape. We're not going to let that go. Listen to this quickly. This is the Senzo Mkhunu in Parliament confirming that he spoke to the president about the political killings task team, and the president said, kudos, go with it.
I'm saying the team was established for a particular purpose. There needed to be a time frame, and there wasn't any time frame. And we have discussed the matter with the president of the Republic, because while it was not a presidential task team, it was his initiative to do so, but it became a ministerial committee in practice, and therefore we have had a discussion with the President of the Republic, and we are in agreement that we can look into the matter the way we've looked at it currently. Now, the other aspect...
You hear that? We've discussed it with the President, and they have agreed that we look at it in the manner that we are looking at it. The President needs to come to the Commission and tell us, why did he agree with the police minister that they must disband the political killings task team? What did they base that on? He has to go to the Commission. Let's go to your WhatsApps.
Clement, Tabiso speaking here. I mean, the president knew about this political task team disbanded, and then he just kept quiet about it. Well, that doesn't mean Orleana he is involved either way. Yeah, Mzanz. Yeah, we are led by mafias here. By the way, thanks, Clement. Keep well, man. Sharp.
How's it, Clement? Charles from Johannesburg. I'm curious to know, and I know that one of the chairpersons asked the National Commissioner what recourses does someone do Because you did raise a fair point that it is a simplistic view to say that he should have just said no and refused the order. But if he reports to the president and he reports to the minister and he's relayed to both of them this issue and nothing is done, just out of curiosity, in terms of the legal framework and legal structures, where does he turn to and say, guys, this is happening, if it's happening at the highest level?
Yeah, and I think the option you have now is to try and expose it to the media, because the media will make noise about it. And unfortunately, guys, that's what happens in the state. And that's what happens when you vote for a government, a political party to be in charge, and it comes and in some instances appoints people that run their positions like they are a mafia. So you need to ask yourself questions about the political parties that we put in positions of power, because then they use that power to appoint national police commissioners. Those national police commissioners end up in some instances, like we've seen before. Remember what's happened with Benning Clemeza at the Hawks? They end up pushing the interests of other people other than those of South Africans. So when you walk into a position like that as a national police commissioner, you are naive for thinking that there won't be political interference. You need to decide whether you're going to be a national police commissioner that stands their grounds and puts the safety of South Africans first, or you're going to be a national police commissioner that's more interested about their career advancements and whether or not their family is going to be affected when they lose a job. That's a high-risk position. You walk into it knowing exactly what the risks are. And part of the risk is that there's going to be political interference, and you need to decide which side of the coin you fall in. It's 18 minutes now after 10 o'clock.